I guess I should put up the stream to make sure it's working, right?
Yeah, I've got it up. We're not live quite yet.
All right. There we go. Looks good.
Know the truth. Oh, nice. I got an ad.
Oh, perfect. Only if we get that many. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for checking it out. Second podcast for the IHSEA. Definitely going to be doing this hopefully bi-weekly now. Our schedules have sort of slowed down, so we should have some free time for the next foreseeable future. So every 2 weeks is the plan for this. Wednesday nights seems to be the good night to do it. I am Todd Deirdre McFarland. I'm the coach at Taft High School, as well as one of the co-founders for the IHSEA. With me today again, I have Andy, which is Project Monster, who is the coach at Mateo Valley at the moment. And then also joining us today is Ed Cann. Going to talk about some of the stuff he's doing. He is the coach from Oswego High School. Go ahead and say
How's it
hi,
going?
guys.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Sounds good. How have you guys been?
Fine.
Yeah, pretty good.
pretty standard since the last stream. No.
You guys have been watching Worlds at all for League?
Yeah, I already finished my pick'ems, man. I'm already done with that. How about
I
you,
can
Ed?
do my pick. The pickums are launched already? Oh, yeah, that was today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did them accidentally on the minute. I opened up the window. It was like, oh, available in 58 seconds. I was like, I'll just do this now because I already know who's gonna win.
Nice. How many points do you have?
Like 6.
6.
Hold on, I'm just kidding. Let me see.
I was gonna say, wow, I thought I did bad, but 6 would be.
I'll find out for you right now. How about you, Ed? Are you
Oh God, I don't have money more than 6. It's probably like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I got one group completely right, and I think I got 2 groups completely wrong.
Well, one group completely right is like 16 points, I think.
I've got 15 points on me.
Wow.
I don't even know. Hold on,
Yeah.
I gotta open up my client.
It's because I put NA first, man.
That's your mistake.
Yeah, that was.
That's why I pick the Bears every week, is and then I usually get shafted.
I put Genji.
Oh no, I have 20 points.
Wow, Ed's leading by 5.
20 points.
Wow, do I?
Actually, I didn't get
I guess
all
I
groups
shouldn't
right.
say my. I guess I shouldn't say my points then. Never mind.
No, let's hear it, Taft.
I have 32.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I already know that I have the quarterfinal, finals, or semifinals and finals completely accurate. I can tell you, like, best of 5. I can tell you the exact number.
So I'm guessing you didn't put NA or EU winning anything then, right?
Actually, I put Fnatic to win Worlds.
Oh my god.
I put Fnatic going to the finals, but I put RNG winning it all.
Okay, I brought it down to Fnatic and RNG at the final. So if we're gonna go through it, just real quick, I know we're kind of off topic, but it's it's fun to talk about. So I've got Cloud9 beating Afrika Freaks, and I've got Fnatic beating EDG. I've got KT Rolster beating Invictus, and I've got RNG beating G2 hands down. RNG is gonna smash KT. Fnatic versus Cloud9. I want to say Fnatic's going to win. You never know. Cloud9's been surprising us. And realistically, RNG is going to win Worlds, but I've got my Western pride in me, so I've got Fnatic at number 1.
I would love for Fnatic to win. I just don't think they. I don't think they will. I mean, I'd love for C9 to make it, but I think they might be able to beat Afrika depending on which Afrika team shows up.
Right.
The Afrika from the first games, that's fine. I want them to show up.
Right.
I think if Afrika can slow the game down, then they beat Cloud9 pretty handily. Because Cloud9's macro isn't always the greatest. But if C9 can just constantly pick fights, I think they'll win. But I think that Fnatic top to bottom is better than Cloud9. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Cloud9 just got hot at the right moment. It's kind of like baseball. If you get hot at the right moment, you can carry yourself into it.
That's true. That's very true.
All right. So feel free, if you guys are in chat, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Chime in. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff. we have some announcements that we'll get, and we'll also post the recap in on YouTube as well as in the Discord for a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, because we have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of announcements, some just recurring and other stuff new. Starting with jerseys, we do have a partnership with a new jersey company. It's Sublime Wear USA. They are brand new to the market. I believe they're a brand new company. And they will be offering us prices. As I was pulling up the email right now from them. So prices for jerseys. These are the same jerseys that we've had at Taft. Now we've ordered twice from them. Or at least a subsidiary of the basically what this company was before. So really good quality. It's $48.99 for short sleeve crew shirt, $53.99 for zip collar, and then $53 for crew long sleeve crew collar, $58 for a long sleeve zip collar, and hoodies are gonna be, I think, $78.99. The nice thing about them, though, is that you can, through this company, I think they have 16 initial designs. You can put any colors on it. I think you can put up to like 20-something logos. So if you want to get sponsored by one of your local businesses, you can have them put their logo on your jersey, put the school logo. We're working to try and see if we can get Riot logos and Blizzard logos for Overwatch. That's obviously a big deal because companies making money off of their logos is different. I don't think they got the rights for it last time I checked. I can check and see what if they have a follow up on that yet. But it'll be awesome to be able to put your team on there if possible. But really good quality. I highly recommend them. And then the IHSEA does have a partnership with them. So by buying them through this company, Sublime Wear USA, you'll actually be helping support the IHSEA. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about. Don't forget our new interest form for those who haven't filled it out yet. I believe hopefully the command's working. I don't know if Mubot showed up today. He did not last week.
He called off last week.
He did. He's been off for a while.
What do you mean by your question, Wrigley? By offering a strong price?
Oh, he's on. Mubot's back. So I can actually add a bunch more commands later. While he's typing it up, other things I wanted to talk about, making sure that you get your schools on the emerging activity form for the IHSA, for the actual IHSA. If you can contact your athletic director, have them log in, and then I believe at the top of the page there'll be a place to add your school and go to the emerging activities list, so that you can be put in under eSports. We're trying to get every school in there as possible. Obviously, the more schools they see interested, the more interest they will put in it, and they'll see where they're coming from, because I'm in constant communication with them to try and talk to them about what their plans are for the future in esports. So definitely trying to do that. I also put up a form. I'll get that here in a second. I'll post it in the chat, and then I'll make the command for it. All right. So if we have anyone here that wants to be an intern, that is the form to sign up to be an intern. We're looking for interns to do all sorts of different things: casting, stories. Thank you, Andy. I was about to do that. We're looking for casting to write up stories, writers to help us with the podcast. Also looking for people to do weekly recaps, possibly video work to do some clips so we can have a clip of the week. Once the season kicks off, we'd like to do this weekly to actually talk about stuff, and we'd like to ramp it up if we could.
So yeah, either weekly or bi-weekly. We were thinking about doing some stuff about the season, which would be really great. So during the Overwatch season, highlighting some plays and highlighting some like, I don't know, team fights or something like that. Same thing with League. Maybe do like a top 5 or top 10 kind of deal. I mean, it'd be really nice to be able to start showcasing especially some of the media too that comes out of all the high schools. Just kind of show them off and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. It'd be a really good tool to have. So, like I said, if you're or like I'm sorry, like Todd said, I'm just completely blank there. If you'd like to help us out or have students that are interested in helping us out, as far as like an internship, please push it and feel free to come on board.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking for also graphic designers to do our graphics work. Andy's doing a great job right now, but between coaching and this podcast and his job and just life in general, as with all of us teachers and those teachers that are here know, you just don't have enough time to do everything. So we also want to give a student an experience to be able to work with someone and have get some experience, make add some stuff to their portfolio to help with their future. And then we're also just looking for moderators for chat for this chat because we're hoping to stream games once we start our season, as well as to moderate the Discord as well. So far, it's been pretty quiet. Hopefully, it'll start taking off as we get closer and closer to the season. So there'll be a lot more people talking, and we'll just need a lot more help with the more people coming in. Other than that, I'll talk about the scrim stuff after we get done with our main segment. Ed, the reason why we brought you here is because we're going to give you a chance to talk about what you have coming up that people might be interested in.
So for Oswego, we've had a League of Legends tournament for the last 3 years. No, this is our third year. This is our third year doing it. It's the Oswego Invitational. We do it over winter break. Big addition here is that we are adding an Overwatch tournament as well. So there'll be 2 separate tournaments. Let me pull up the dates. And I'll post the links in Discord. So Overwatch will be January 2nd to January 5th. And then League of Legends will be December 27th through the 30th. Yeah, it's a completely free tournament. The first year we did it, hold on, let me do this. There you go. I don't know if I can post things. Thanks. That's that one. And then here is Overwatch. There you go. Yeah, sorry. So first year we did it, we opened it up to high schools all over the country. I think we had probably about 20 teams over 2 different levels, both varsity and JV. Last year we tried to keep it to just Illinois or immediate cities around there, or states surrounding it. And I think we had 31 different programs. It spanned over 3 days. So essentially what we do is day 1, we'll do some sort of round robin to seed everyone. Then we go straight into bracket play. There's no prizing, but it's a great way for schools to get the opportunity to have a free tournament against other high schools. There's good competition. I mean, any of the teams that you would see in the IHSEA or HSEI or EL or what other acronyms they've got out there, you would see them there. It's something that brings a lot of different skill levels. Like I said, we both have a varsity and a JV. So if you maybe only have one team and maybe they're not very highly ranked or you're brand new and you want to try out and be in the JV tournament, very cool. If you just have one team and you want them to just be in varsity, that's also cool. You don't have to have teams on both levels. We have colleges spectate. I invite colleges. We have a Discord channel where you can interact with colleges there as well. I think last year we had, I want to say like 5 or 6 colleges in our Discord, and they got to connect with different kids and things like that. You also get, we do our best to get at least one game casted, and not only that, shoutcasted. So you'll actually get either myself or some of my students to actually do play-by-play of the games, which is pretty cool. And we try and give you enough notification in advance if you want to email your like staff in your school, parents, grandparents, whatever the case may be. just so that people can watch. Big thing that we focus on here is trying to connect with other with people outside of esports to kind of give them an experience that makes it feel more like sports, right? I can go to a basketball game, I can go to a football game, even I could go to like a band concert, right? It's more interactive. This is hopefully a way to do that and kind of show that out, I guess, but in a very short period of time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know that Oswego is actually, OHS is going to pass, most likely, fingers crossed, Fortnite as well as a competitive game. So if your school does have a Fortnite team, we will also be hosting a competition very similar to like Fortnite Fridays as well. More details will come out on that. That'll probably be in the spring. But those are the big three competitions that we're looking to do moving forward.
It's awesome.
Great.
That's awesome. And I think for Oswego, the Invitational last year, we had 3 or 4 streams running at once at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Von Steuben was streaming their games. We streamed ours. You guys were on your main channels. And I think East had one too.
East, us, the Oswego Invitational one, you guys, and then Von Steuben. Yeah, I think there was, and I think like Rova had one as well.
Oh, you're right. They did that. Yeah,
they had their own games, and that's another thing too as well. That's the big thing that I'm going to hoping. I've got the structure down. It's a little bit more concise at this point, so I'm hoping to make at least like, the website a little bit more interactive, a little bit easier to navigate. Ooh, websites are a little bit ugly sometimes, so I'm going to try and clean that
trust
up.
me.
Yeah,
I would love to have someone who knows how to do web design, because I learned HTML over the summer and it's not fun. And that wasn't even messing with CSS or Java or anything. That was literally just the HTML. I'm like, no, forget that.
Yeah, it's it's gross. But
have you tried the Google Sites yet?
Yeah,
the new one?
Yeah, that's what we did. Oh, the new one.
They updated it this year. It's completely new, and it actually looks halfway decent. So check that out. Yeah.
So I'll have to look through that, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of like get that link and just share it out and saying like, hey, this is where you should go. This is what you should look at for it. But hey, even if you're just interested in it, but you don't know if you're going to have enough people, go ahead, Project Monster, plug both of them. I think. Let me do a quick count. For Overwatch, we have 9 teams for that, and then League we have 13 teams for that. And I know I've talked to a couple schools who are still kind of on the fence. So, and it's not the same teams in both Overwatch and League. So I think we'll be pretty close to where we were at last year with unique schools, which is cool. It's fun to have different schools. We take your graphics and logos and stuff, and really try and it's obviously nowhere near what you would see for like the Overwatch League or the LCS, but it's cool. You get to see your school's logos up there and stuff. And I think for the final we had like 30. I think it was like 30 spectators watching, which was cool. It was cool, and there was a lot of like chatter back and forth. People were talking up their school's teams and things like that, which is cool. You want to see that, and a lot of school spirit and I think that's one thing that not only the Oswego Invitational that us and East put on, but also the IHSEA, it kind of makes it more relatable. A lot of times the downfall of esports is that you don't see the people performing, right? You could be all from one school, but you really don't get a sense of that. So we're really trying to go above and beyond, making sure that like, even while like the teams are playing, I know a lot of schools do it as well in their own personal streams, making sure the school's logos are up there. If it's, Matia and Oswego East, you got a Mustang up in one corner and a wolf in the other.
Yep.
It makes it more relatable and like what you would see like an actual like sporting event.
Completely agree.
So we're really excited.
Oh, and it's definitely, and it's a great way to kick off to see where your team actually fits into the mold. A lot of teams that basically is their kind of proving ground. And last year was nice because a bunch of teams got to play during the group stage where they actually got to put in some games and see how good their team is compared to other schools, since some of them aren't paying to get into some of the other leagues that are out there, and they just kind of want to see how it goes. Free tournaments are great, so it's nice to get that experience, because I know everyone's looking to try and face up against other teams. So,
Well, I think that's another thing. Like it feels like there's a lot more risk in like a paying tournament. It kind of adds up if you're paying for this tournament, paying for that tournament, and you're not willing to experiment. You're not willing to, try different lineups and things like that. I know for us, especially last year, we had about probably like a 7 or 8 man roster, and that allowed us to kind of, work through some kinks, see who played well together. And so if your school's looking for a way to and sometimes scrims are great, but there's also times where scrims don't help show you as much of what you're doing well and whatnot, because you don't have that competitive nature to it. So we like where it's at. Games will start at probably about 9 a.m. Between 9 and 10 each day, because you will be playing quite a few games, especially for league, because there's so many schools. I think our groups last year, we were at about 4 or 5 per group.
Yeah.
We play round robin the first day, and then brackets. I mean, we start with best of 3s. The final is usually a best of 5, so it's a long day. So we start at about 9, also to try and get people out of there, done for the day at around 2, so people have to work and things like that. So, yeah, I think that's about my spiel there.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I haven't signed up on the list yet. I don't know if you counted me, but I'll at least have league teams from both schools and Overwatch probably from Taft. So
cool.
I'm just waiting. I'll meet with Taft on this Thursday, so I'll have some more ideas of how it's going. Yeah, and with that, and then one of the other things I wanted to mention with that, just getting the play experience in with other teams. If anyone's interested, what I'm trying to set up is basically statewide scrim days and times. I don't know if it'll work for every school, and we can possibly play with the flexibility of it for now. But I wanted to set up basically scrim times for League and scrim times for Overwatch, so that every week you can just go online, go on the IHSEA Discord, and be like, hey, we want to scrim on the scrim day. Is anyone available? And that way, a lot of times, I know my team has had it where they wanted to scrim a team, and then 45 minutes before the team was supposed to be on, they message us back, oh, we're missing 2 players, we're not going to scrim. And then you don't have practice. Or you're playing norms, and it makes no sense to actually play norms. So this year, starting, I'd say this week, I don't know why we couldn't start it this week and into next week, starting scrim days, I wanted to pick one day after school so that kids can practice. If they actually practice from school, they can actually just stay at school and scrim against another team. As well as pick a weekend day where they can all scrim from home. So for this year, I want to say league scrims would be Mondays after school 2 to 9, and then Saturdays 5 to 10, and then Overwatch would be Tuesdays 2 to 6, and then Saturdays 5 to 10. So basically same time on Saturday 5 to 10, and then Mondays for league, Tuesdays for Overwatch. So if you can schedule practices around then, we definitely can set up some mass scrims, and that way if a team backs out, you might have another team that's available to practice at that time. Because I know it's such a hassle to find teams to play against, and playing normals only can get you so far because you're not actually playing at the coordinated 5. And if your flex ranks don't fit, then a lot of times it feels like you're wasting time and wasting practice. So
yeah, that's
I wanted to
really great opportunity. I know that we had a brief meeting as a group over the summer, and I remember you pitching this idea. Or I don't remember who did, but anyway, we were pitching this idea, and I think it would have really helped just kind of the first founding years, especially this is kind of for you newer programs out there as well. Having a set scrim day is really useful because kids kind of have to transition to getting used to having esports and gaming as a real time commitment. Because sometimes you're going to have kids that maybe want to play, but then they are in other sports or other activities, which is fine. But they have to also realize too that there are time commitments to certain clubs, and you want to make your club as legitimate as possible. And I know that as far as my administration went at Matia, they like to see our progress as a club. One, because they want to do as much as they can to kind of make sure our club is doing as well as it is. But number two, just making sure that we're keeping kids accountable, and that kind of also transitions into education and the whole education management piece, where it's like, you have to make sure that you're teaching a lesson, so to speak, and that lesson is time management. So having a set scrim day for both games really should help these like newer teams and maybe some not experienced kids get a feel for what it's like if they want to move on and do this even after or in college. I mean, in college they scrim even more. So and imagine professional. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a big idea because there's a lot of kids who have hopes and dreams to actually do esports, and then they get bogged down with, oh, I have to cancel this, or I can't go out with my friends that day, and what am I going to do? And so this is at least a start to getting that together to say, hey, these are the days we have to practice, type thing. Because I know a lot of kids, especially new programs, are like, oh yeah, this sounds great, I want to do it, and then they realize that it's actually work and that you should be putting in some hours for this in order to be successful. We did have a couple questions I saw in chat earlier. Fortnite, right now we're not until Fortnite really announces a private server match. Have they announced that I know of?
No, they haven't announced anything.
Yeah, I don't pay attention too much to the Fortnite stuff unless it's pretty big. But I once it does, then we'll definitely jump on board with that, obviously, because it's one of the more popular games out there. And if something else pops up, then we might do that as well. Fortnite is probably a little easier to get than anything else. I know some people are asking for like Call of Duty and CSGO. And right now we're definitely trying to stay away from the mature rated games just because we are focusing on high schools and it might not be appropriate for all high school age students. So once they get some private servers where we can actually host our own servers, then we definitely will be getting involved in Fortnite in some way. That's for sure. And then somebody asked about Overwatch for PC. Right now it's just PC. We're going to see how everything lines up. We might add a console to the mix come in the spring. We'll definitely let you know about that as soon as we have more word on it. We also need to find out what interest and what console people play on, because once you go to console, then it's each console, and it's like, well, do we do Xbox or do we do PlayStation? And then, fracturing the market. So we might not have enough teams to do an Overwatch on a console yet, just because of the fracture. And if they were able to combine and both play together, then I'd say yes, go for it. I mean, hopefully now with Fortnite doing it, we will be able to do that. But they'll push for that cross server play and cross console play. But right now we're holding off to see how interest is going for Overwatch. So
yep.
I also saw somebody else created a club at their school. Was it the Real Light Magi? What school are you at? We're going to be talking about our next segment, which is how we run clubs and teams, and things like that. So let us know and follow along. We'll just go through what we do and how we do it. And if you guys have any questions.
There it is. Heritage High School.
Heritage. Nice. Where's Heritage at? I'm not familiar with that location.
Heritage High School. A quick Google search determines it is. Oh, sorry, I got a middle school.
I see some nanners in chat.
My subs are taking over.
It's okay. That's okay. All right, so let's start with you, Andy.
I think I see Broadlands, Illinois, is what I have.
Okay, interesting. I've never heard of it.
If it's the right one, there's also Heritage Christian, so I'm not sure which heritage you might be from, but either way, it is exciting that you are starting a new club. It's really great. What did you call my name for? What do you want?
So talking about your club and how you run it at Matea and
oh yeah. So this is actually a really very opportune time to be talking about how to open and run and start a club, because I'm actually going through that again right now. Right now, I'm kind of in the transition of moving from Matea Valley as a full-time, what I do there at Matea, to transitioning into working at Naperville North. Go Huskies. I've got my Husky sweater on today. So they didn't actually have any sort of club, not even a gamers club over at Naperville North. So I would walk past students. Obviously, kids are playing Fortnite on their phones. It is what it is. And then I stumbled across somebody who was watching the League of Legends World's Finals on their phone. I just happened to be walking through the comments, so I stopped and I had a conversation with him, and he was really interested in starting a league club. So we talked, and I kept in contact with the student. But the number one thing that made it the easiest for me is having a student and knowing that there's a student interest behind that, behind just that student, and they got so excited that they organized by themselves. So I had at first just three kids that approached me and were interested. And then I also heard a kid in the hallway talking about the C9 game or whatever. And so I talked to him about it and got his information. So I sent out an email, and then all of a sudden, in our sign up list, we had 50 kids, not 50 only for league, but 50 kids in general. And we had enough to field two league teams in particular at Naperville North. So that just happened again a few days ago. So now I'm starting some of the next steps in opening a club. So right now we're thinking about a few core things that we need as a club. If we want to participate in tournaments, if we want to, when do we want to practice, what kind of other commitments the kids have, all those things kind of have to be thought about. So it just so happens that right now I'm taking the route of, if we want to participate in tournaments that are coming up, because there are a lot of great tournaments coming up in Illinois, where do we find the money for that? How do we get funding? So now I sat down with my co-sponsor at Naperville North and said, okay, we need to raise money. How do we do fundraising here at Naperville North? We talked to our activities director, the secretary. We got an activities fundraising form, like an approval form. And so slowly but surely we're filling in the gaps, and we're thinking of brainstorming about different ways to fundraise at your school. At my school over at Mattia Valley, we decided that we're going to do a fundraiser this year by doing a World's Viewing Party on November 2nd. I'm sorry, November 3rd. So we're doing a rebroadcast viewing party, and just asking if kids want to come in to bring $5. They're going to get fed pizza, and we get to sit around and watch the game together. So that is something that kind of encompasses the community. Our administration was really excited about that. And obviously, I'm going to be reaching out to the Oswego schools. It just so happens that Ed Cann is here, and that if they want to bring their kids, and we can all, just kind of sit around and watch the game together, I think that'd be a really cool experience. But fundraising just on its own, just besides for that idea, is a big deal, because you have to think about all the fees that come with the tournament. So there is hotel fees if it's going to be more than one day. There's entry fees, then the just general tournament fees. You got to think about gas and transportation. So for our school, we're lucky enough to have access to the short white athletic buses, and our co-sponsor and myself were both trained on driving it, so we can drive it to wherever we need to as long as we sign it out. So that eliminates a bigger cost of like renting a bus driver and having them stay and come back. But then that means we have to pay for gas. So either way. So that covers kind of the first preliminary things. This is something that I learned just from starting the club at Mattia. I was a student when I started the club, so all of these things I didn't really have to deal with. But now starting a new club at Naperville North, I have to kind of deal with the administration piece. So that was kind of the bigger gap that we know we need to fill eventually. So we might as well get that started now. I will just kind of as a piece of advice, a lot of teams and a lot of schools, think that they have to have a team ready, like as soon as the year starts. That's not necessarily the case. It's almost second semester for us at Naperville North, and we haven't had our first meeting yet, which is okay. I mean, we've got our gauge and how many kids want to be a part of the club, but we haven't had actually any formal practices or anything like that, which I'm okay with, because that gives the kids an opportunity to be done with their fall commitments and kind of transition into winter and spring commitments and fit us into that schedule. And we'll see where the kids can kind of make time to practice and scrim, and then they'll have a schedule as to when, I usually like to bring up to my kids, like, okay, There's a tournament coming up next month in November. There's one coming up in January. There's the Oswego Invitational. Out of these three things, what do we want to do? Do we want to do all three? Do we have the time for it? Or are we excited enough about it? And I got different reactions from both schools. Matia Valley, they maybe want to do one of the three, and Naperville North, they're like, yeah, let's do it. It's our first year. I'm there to kind of make sure that all of it falls into place and transitions really smoothly, but I don't necessarily have to be their hands-on coach. If they want me to, I will, if they're looking for that direction. But I think most of these kids know what they're doing as far as in game. They just need a correct direction from an adult, and someone who can represent them at the school to the administration and get themselves approved just to be around the school. I'm really excited to be working with this new school, especially because, one of the bigger things too is that as a teacher, you're going to want to make friends and acquaintance with your administration, obviously, or as whatever you do at the school. I'm not a teacher, but whatever you do at the school. So I know my athletic director at Naperville North and at Matia really well, and I know some of the admins really well. And so because of that, I can more easily speak to them about what esports is and kind of get them to understand that this is a big deal and that kids really want to play. And the number one thing they've always asked for me from both schools is interest. Like, I want to know that these kids want to play. If the kids want to play, we're going to make it happen. And the kids want to play. So if you guys have any more in particular questions, I'd love to answer them. And of course, I'm sure the two of us here as well have talked for a very long time. But I can just touch on these two things. I wrote down some things to talk about. There's grades. You want to make sure that even though the IHSA hasn't sanctioned esports as an activity quite yet, you want to make sure that the kids are meeting the grade requirements of IHSA sports. At least that's the way we run it at Matia, and then the way we will run it at North. They can't be failing a class, and they have to have a certain point GPA, I believe. But the main point is that they can't be failing a class, and there's no exception to that. So routinely, I would ask somebody in the building if you're not allowed to check the students' grades individually. I'm sure you are, but if you're not, I would ask someone in the building to just check eligibility. I need to know if this kid is able to participate in a club. If they are, then everything else is all set. But you're going to want to start making that precedent at the beginning of your club's founding, because you don't want it to be a surprise to the kids when, all of a sudden they're not eligible to play in the IHSA tournament or IHSEA or whatever because of their grades. So you want to, and that also helps, building a good name for your program and showing people that esports is not just a distracting thing. It's a sport, or it's an activity. It's something that kids can do. Behavior is another thing. I found that rank means less than personality and behavior. So when I sit and listen to my kids practice, because we can't practice at school at Matia, we're on, some schools are fortunate enough to be able to practice after schools. I just tell my kids, go home, do your homework, eat something, and then get online at such and such time. When they do, I sit in the Discord call with them. I'll spectate, even though it's like a 3-minute delay for League of Legends, but I'll spectate and I'll listen to their comms. The most important thing you want to monitor is their I've just completely blanked on the word, but it's, when they talk, their communication. You want to monitor that, because if there's any toxicity, it's just going to bring the entire team down. And not only is your team going to underperform, which is, should be less important to you than the fact that the kids are not going to like each other and they're not going to want to be around each other. And all of a sudden this program becomes something that they dread every week. You don't want that. You need to either correct or remove the bad apples in the situation. Obviously, as an educator, you want to be able to build your students as much as possible. So you're going to want to work with the kids that maybe do need some work, or work with your team and make sure that they're all set on the right path to communicate well. And communication is key. I'm sure you guys would agree in any game or any sport, even Ed, you coaching soccer as well. Communication is key. You want to be loud and you want to make yourself present. You want to make sure that people hear you, but you also want to make sure you're letting other people talk. So that is another big thing. But let's see. Is there anything in here that I should read? Have you guys seen any questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna address Koshka Star, starting a club at Hinsdale Central. So if you're having trouble finding a sponsor, one of the great things that has happened through esports is just how many kids you can get involved in it. So basically, if you can't find a teacher to sponsor it, come to the administration or go to the activities director or athletic director at your school and be like, hey, I have 100 kids signed up for this club. Do you know of a teacher that can do it? And once you come with them with a big enough list, they'll find a teacher that they'll basically say, well, hey, you don't do anything after school. You're going to be a part of this club. And although that's not ideal, you'd rather have someone who's actually vested in it to get it started and off the ground and get it sanctioned by the school. That's a really good way to do it. That's kind of how a lot of schools started, because we've talked to students who want to get stuff started, and so they go to their administration. And then I know my co-founder, Amy, that's kind of how she got put involved with League, is that she was like, oh yeah, hey, you're going to do this club after school. And she kind of didn't have a choice, but now she loves it and loves coaching it. So it's kind of how it starts. But I'd say get a list of kids who want to participate, get their ID numbers or get their school email addresses, and have them sign a petition saying, hey, we want to get this club. And you go to the school with 50 kids, they're going to find a teacher to sponsor you, because they're going to know they want to help support you. Yeah. So that's probably the best way to go about it if you can't find a teacher that you know and trust that has that free time to do the club.
Yeah, and the best places to look would definitely be if you have a CTE program or technology or computer graphics or anything like that. Most of those teachers will probably be on board. Next is be science teachers, I'm sure. And you never know who, what kind of...
see if any of your friends know what teachers play Fortnite or play games in general.
Hearthstone. I know a lot of teachers play Hearthstone in their free time if they're gamers.
I know a couple teachers that play WoW, and I'm like, how do you manage to play WoW and teach? And give a pat on the back.
Right. It looks like B. Boris Z2 says, starting a team at Lake Forest High School. Do you suggest a parent meeting at some point early on? If so, how did you approach this? Did any one of you have a parent meeting?
I haven't done a parent meeting yet. I probably plan on it this year, though.
Yeah. How about you, Ed?
When we first started it, we did. So how we run it is actually very simple. I guess it comes more from my athletic background. They all have to sign contracts where I outline all the expectations. They come with like a demerit outline for behavior, attendance for practices, grades, things like that. So that's a pretty easy blanket if you can't get a room, or if you're looking for something really easy to post on like a Google site or something like that, or Google Classroom, or just send home with kids. That's what I do. Most parents are fine with it. I put something on there for like parent communication. So if they'd rather email or phone number. I also have it set up, well, they have it set up at school because it's technically a club, where I get eligibility. So I actually have access to all the kids' grades, have access to their parent communication, things like that. So that's more along the lines of what we do.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm going to do a parent meeting this year with at least my TAF bunch, and probably my Steinmetz bunch too, just because the more you get parents involved in the earlier, the more they can support it. When we had the finals for the IHSEA, I wasn't expecting the amount of parents to show up with their kids compared to the year before when I ran the smaller tournament.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was a really awesome experience.
The fact that I think we had almost 100 people show up to watch live, as well as like 100 people watching online too, which was really great. But we ended up having to open up 2 or 3 other live streams for the JV teams that we weren't expecting to stream, because the parents are like, hey, we came all the way down here, we kind of want to watch our kid play, even though we don't know about the game, but we'd love to learn. Just to see that, and I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. That I didn't expect it. That was something I wasn't really planning on, is having all of the spectators there from that were adults. I expected just the coaches and players kind of to come down, even though we invited everyone. We just didn't have it. We didn't have it the first year, so I didn't expect it for this year. But yeah, definitely getting the parents on board and showing them that they're not just playing games, by themselves and being antisocial, and they're not just doing it just to do it. They're actually, getting something out of it. I think it's definitely really good to have that parent meeting and tell them, stuff like, hey, $9 million was given away this year to colleges, and that number is exponentially growing every year. Considering the first, 5 years ago, it was, maybe a couple 100,000. So I think it's kind of important to show them what this has to offer. And not only just the gaming aspect. A lot of colleges are looking for kids to get involved with their esports programs, to be the casters, to be the streamers, to be analysts and things like that. So they have opportunity whether or not they're, like top level play, but get them involved in saying, hey, they can use this as a job, as a stepping stone to maybe get involved in esports or sports commentating or, whatever. I mean, Andy, I was going to say shoutcast soccer games, but you, what is it called now?
Announcing, shotcasting. It's pretty much all the same thing. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that's something that you got involved in because you like doing it for esports as well, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly how I got involved, and that's how I got involved in working in schools too. If I didn't have esports, I wouldn't be working for Batia and then now Naperville North. Esports was my open door to kind of get into working into building administrations in schools and all that. So yeah, definitely, I definitely agree with that, and I will say, just talking about the parent meetings as well, just kind of on that topic. Like I said, like Mattia has never had one of those parent meetings. We've thought about it a lot in the past years and this year as well. But it really kind of depends on what the kids' interests are. Like to me, if I've got a lot of kids who are on board, I mean, obviously they'll have to sign permission slips because I do have them kind of sign something similar, and I have their parents read over it and sign it as well. So as long as that goes off without a hitch, and we don't have like one or two stragglers who are like, oh, my parents don't exactly know what this is, they don't want to do it. Then we haven't had a meeting. But I will say our first year we had we keep talking about the WIT gaming tournament. There was a tournament near the suburban Chicago area that Oswego, Mattia, Oswego East, and Wabanzi Valley were a part of. It was just like a 4-team kind of like season. But what was really nice about it is that it was a LAN tournament it's like every week or every other week that they met. We had parents obviously dropping off kids, and they would stop in and listen and sit in and just they would watch their kids, and they would hear the crowd, the small crowd that gathered, and watch the TVs and sit on the couches. And I remember having parents in there asking, what is this? What is esports, and why is everyone so excited? And we had our principal even show up from Mattia. So when parents started seeing that, our building administrators were excited, then they started getting excited. They saw their kids getting excited, and we had parents show up once or twice a week that was just completely new faces, and they were really excited to see what their kids were doing. So I would say, don't be afraid to show the media that develops around your team to parents. Post it on social media. Maybe if you want to send an email out about, like, if you're going to a big tournament, just make them understand the severity of how big esports is and what their kids are doing, and naturally they're going to come and want to support what they're doing. So,
yeah, I mean, and then the other option too is not just have it be a parent night type thing, but like make an event out of it. Like give them a display. If you guys can bring some computers in and show them what it's like to actually play competitive, and show them like some pro stuff, and just basically kind of give them the knowledge that they would need to say, hey, is this going to be successful? Is this something my kid should do? Or is it a waste of time? Because a lot of, parents who don't know, and a lot of teachers and administrators just think it's a waste of time. And we know it's not, because we've been involved in it and we can see what can come out of it. But they kind of just need to be enlightened, because a lot of people are in the dark on it. So.
Definitely.
Yeah. Ed, did you want to talk about your program and how you got started and how you run club and anything to add around that?
Yeah. Well, I guess for me it's a little bit more unique. Well, not unique. I start every year with like a get to know me type of presentation. In it, talked about how I played League of Legends. So a student of mine approached me, asked if I do it. I said yes. And it was for this tournament at a local LAN. And so there's been like a lot of like learning and growing along the way. I've kind of learned, and it's always like a piece of advice, like if someone shoots out an email to me about like, hey, you know, I'm looking to start a program, or, you know, we're trying to figure out, you know, what to do. I'm a big advocate of like, find ways for kids to participate, but don't let them run the ship, if that makes sense. The scariest thing for the administration is to see like lack of control on behalf of the staff. So doing the best to kind of control what's going on in front of you. For us at our school, I don't let kids coach. I have them be analysts. So a lot of times, like if they don't want to play in a competitive team, or you know, maybe they didn't make a competitive team but still want to be involved, a lot of times they'll watch VODs with me, and we'll kind of break down video and stuff, and then we turn around and we bring the team in and we'll walk through them with it. Or like if we're at a live event, those analysts will I'll tell them like, hey, look out for X, Y, and Z, write down what you see. Because there's so much going on that it's difficult to kind of break it down there in live time. And then when the team meets in between games and a match, you know, people can share out like that. So that would be my first thing, is like really try and exercise control, run it like you would any other club. So you could have different roles and positions, but kind of the buck stops with you. Because I know for a lot of administrations, it's kind of scary at times, I guess, because it's a kind of a new frontier. So the more control that you show that you have over the group, the better it is. Be transparent with the kids and your expectations. Whether it's, you know, you have a Discord channel, be very transparent. Like, well, yes, this is, you know, video game and internet culture. You have to do it responsibly. You know, whatever you say or may do, you're subject to any of the other punishments that would happen if you did that in a school. The other things is like, shout your kids out as much as possible. Again, it's pretty easy for teachers to kind of stumble into, you know, a basketball game on their way out of school, or, you know, see that a student is into art because their art is hung up in the school. It's a little bit more difficult for teachers to know that, you know, these kids are playing. So if you have the capabilities to stream their matches, or different things like that, or just sending like an all-staff email saying like, hey, guess what? This team placed fourth in this tournament, or this team won this tournament. And then like a lot of times what I'll do is like I'll put their real name and then like what their in-game name is. Though, much to the kids' dismay, I make sure that it's a mandate that their in-game name is appropriate for me to put in an all-staff email. But that way, like if those teachers have those students in class, they're able to like reach out and say, hey, like great job, I saw you did this. Or we've had teachers watch some of the streams and like come up and say things to the kids in school the next day and stuff. It's those sort of things that you kind of have to shout them out. I know you guys were talking about jerseys earlier. We do like apparel sales and things like that, where we actually work with our athletic department, and we use it's BSN. They do all the apparel for all the athletics. Provide that as an opportunity for kids. The more that you can kind of break down those barriers of like, oh, well, you know, that kid just plays video games, you know, and that kind of connotation. It's probably not in every school, but for Oswego, I know for at least the first year, there was kind of like a connotation where kids didn't want to talk about it. But now it's kind of a sense of pride where kids are like, yeah, I'm part of the eSports program. Like, yeah, you know, I go to these tournaments and things like that. I think it also kind of changed with us because we've had 6 kids in 3 years get college scholarships to go play at different schools. And as soon as like the school culture kind of accepts it as like, no, this is like like Andy was saying, like, this is a big deal. Like you've got to invest time, you know, as much time as you may put into whatever sport or club that you're doing, you have to put in here. It kind of validates it. And I think that's huge with an esports program, is validating it. Again, same thing for like parents and administration, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's really about it. I mean, just being open and straightforward and like really showing that like there's kind of like a chain of command and like these are the expectations, and if you want to participate, this is how you got to do it. I think there's a lot of emotions involved. I think Andy also hit on it when he said that like sometimes kids will come in with a general like thinking like, oh, I'm in diamond, I know way more than all these other people, I'm going to be way better for the team, but that's not really how it translates. I mean, a lot of times, your solo queue ranking doesn't reflect how you'll play as a full five. So a lot of times your kids who are more willing to be coached or kids who are more willing to kind of like sacrifice for the team, you want to praise that behavior and kind of show that. So I think that's about it for us. Be flexible with the games that you play. It'll kind of ebb and flow. If kids are interested, we're up to 4 different games that our program supports. Anytime that we add a new game, kids have to make a proposal. It's on the kid. They have to show that, I want this to happen. We had it with Fortnite. We're also having it for Super Smash Brothers. They have to make the proposal. They have to tell the administration, why should the school do this? Why should they invest in time or money or technology or things like that? Explaining the benefits. Like, it's a team game. It increases communication. Things like that. As soon as you kind of have them invest that time, they're more involved and they want to watch it succeed. And it shows the administration like, look, these kids actually want to do this. And when you go to sit down with administration, having that frank conversation, like, there's a group of kids who want this. And unless you have for us, we really don't have a video game club. We don't have a gaming club. This is it. Like, this is the group that caters to it. It increases buy-in, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that resonates a lot with most of the clubs that are around it. Like, there's a big interest in it, and it's it's good putting it on the students to make sure that they know and everything, and that they really want it to succeed. They have to really sell it, which is awesome, especially to get like Fortnite and Smash involved. I think we're definitely going to be doing Smash this year because interest has picked up quite a bit with the new game coming out. So
definitely, yeah. We've got majority of our kids that signed up for Naperville North are wanting to play Smash. It's probably like 20 something, 25 kids.
That's crazy. Yeah, I never even realized it was that big, but I guess it is that big. And the crazy thing with Smash is a lot of people, from what I've seen, a lot of people think they're really good. So
that's true.
They play Smash and then they play against an actual like skilled player that has gone to tournaments, and they realize how bad they are at Smash, and they just kind of play for fun.
How much they want to improve, you mean? How much they need to improve.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for games like that, like tournaments like the Oswego Invitational or the IHSEA, having just a framework where kids can compete and like showing your administration, a lot of people ask like, how do I like tell them that this is legitimate? Tournaments and organizations like this where, you can say like, look, we're playing other high schools. Like, this is something where it's well organized, it's well run, holds kids accountable. It's not just them finding other people to play with, which is fine, which is good, but you're showing them like this is a legitimate club. I think really adds to it. And I think like something like Super Smash Brothers, where it's like super underground. I didn't even realize how underground it was.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like, I don't know, like street racing or something. Like, people just show up to places and compete.
Yeah,
something like the IHSEA or something like that. I know East Aurora is putting together a Super Smash Brothers tournament for local schools and stuff. So
yeah, there's I think 3 schools have contacted me that they're doing Smash tournaments. I know my new school, Steinmetz, actually did one last year, year before, and they're planning on doing another one this year. And two other schools reached out to me and said they're doing. I think East Aurora is one of them, saying they're doing a Smash tournament. And then there's another school. I'm like, where's all this Smash coming from? I know, like I said, I know it's popularity ringing up with the new game coming, but I'm like,
and I think it's ease of access too. It's like, you can set up a TV and anywhere, especially if they're playing Melee. Set up a TV and a GameCube and 4 controllers, and all of a sudden, or 2 controllers. You've got a setup. All you need is an outlet with 2 plugs, and that's it. You're ready.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that definitely is good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll talk about mine since we didn't have too many questions. With at Taft, it was kind of like the same way that Andy went about it. I was just at Taft and saw someone watching the LCS when I was there. It was around this time of year, probably a little bit earlier, and just saw him watching Worlds, and he, I was like, oh, you play League? And, not knowing who he was because I hadn't met him yet. I was like, oh yeah, I play League. I play League quite a bit. And I was like, oh, it's interesting. I just found that there's like a bunch of high school league. There's a high school tournament for League of Legends. And, I was like, would you want to play? Do you know anyone that would want to play? And right off the bat, it's like, oh yeah, I know a whole bunch of people. And I've come to find out is that the player that I talked to actually was ranked challenger on the bracket, which was like, wow, I just like stumbled into a challenger level league player that happens to go to my high school. But from there, we definitely went and started putting league teams together. And from there, we used the interest of the students. The first meeting we had, I had 97 kids show up that wanted to be part of the league club and the league team. And I think we ended up having like 36 kids try out for the first league team, which I was like, this is ridiculous and this is crazy. Like, I didn't expect it to be so big. And the league has died down a little bit. Overwatch has picked up, and people want to play Fortnite and things like that. So, a league might not be as strong and popular as it was before. I think this year it's kind of it comes in ebbs and flows because this year for some reason I have a ton of freshmen that play League, and
me too.
I haven't. It must have been just whatever something got into the water at that point, and they were League players. But yeah, I literally have like 4 or 5 freshmen that play League, and after going 3 years with barely getting any new players, now having this big influx, it's kind of nice. But yeah, so it was really easy once I had the students and be like, hey, we have this giant club now, what can you do for us? And then turning it into full-on eSports team and talking with everyone to make sure that we get computers set up so we can play at school and practice at school, even though it's not ideal on our original systems to play from school because they weren't the greatest. It was still better to do that than to play from home, just to be able to communicate and talk and everything about in person and be able to basically watch them play and then literally go throw up the game on the projector on the replay and watch and rewatch the game they just played to talk about what happened, especially when you're scrimming against your B team or whatnot and trying to pick out what can be done better. And then now I'm also going through the same thing that Andy did with starting at a new school while still running an old program. So I think we're one of the few coaches out there that's running 2 programs at the same time.
Just so happened to same year too.
Yeah. So I'm trying to start the group up at Steinmetz, and luckily League is actually quite popular enough to front a team. I think I have like 9 or 10 guys that are interested. We'll see how many stick with the group, but definitely seeing League and seeing all, like, we have probably 20 to 30 people that play Smash weekly every week after school. Like sometimes they play on the auditorium. Basically they have a brand new 4K projector in there, so they play on that projector in the auditorium frequently. But just seeing everything else, we still have quite a bit of kids show up, and dealing with administration and dealing with new policies and new things, it's a completely different beast. It's hard, it's tough, but definitely setting up the consistency, like I said, where it's not just a game, and showing them that it's hard work and it involves a lot of more skill than just playing games to actually be a successful program, and getting just on routines. I think routines is the biggest thing, is set up your practice days and set up your practice times, and get the kids dedicated, because once you get them dedicated, I think it ends up putting more stress on it, which is good, because then it's not just playing for fun. Like a lot of my new kids at my new school Steinmetz, I'm telling them like, hey, you guys really have to like be online and play together and practice. And mine, I always make them play a bunch of solo queue games in the beginning, just so I can make sure that they're trying to level up right now, especially the best time, because everyone's trying to rank up to try and get the rewards and whatnot now that the season has a deadline. But just to put the pressure on, like I have a couple people who say, oh, I don't want to, I just hit gold 5, I'm at 0 LP, I don't want to play another ranked game because I don't want to demote. And it's like, well, what's going to happen if you're on stage and you never actually challenge yourself with that pressure? Mm-hmm. So I tell them it's exactly like playing in the championship game where you're one and done if you lose, and you just aren't used to playing with pressure like that. So I think it's a really good thing to push them to pressure through some of those things. And I do have like the same things like you do with grades and behavior for my kids. And I tell them, like, I have one student who I might have an issue with this year because he's gotten several accounts banned on League, and then he'll just go and buy like a random level 30, like, silver account and play on it until it gets banned again. And I'm just like, hey, it's either you change or you probably won't play much, just because it's not the kind of attitude we want. It's like, oh yeah, well, I just want to troll them and I just want to say the stuff in all chat. And it's like, well, then you're not playing for the right reasons. Whether you're, essentially diamond ranked or not, you don't have a diamond account because you can't keep it long enough. So, and I tell them that because it's like, hey, you're not diamond unless I see your account on diamond and stay there. So, but that definitely is a lesson that you learn as a coach. You're like, oh, I really want this player, but is it really worth it overall? And I think we've all, at this point, because Ed, you've been running for 6? Is this your 5th year or 6th year?
This is the 5th year.
Yeah, my 5th year as well. So this is both of our. I think we started. I think Amy started at the same time as well, right?
Yeah, I think we all started at the same time, which is also another weird thing.
Yeah, I think we all started 5 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah. Can't believe it's
but
5 years.
We're still here. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many teams have come and gone in that time, and then teams have started back up again after they've gone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
well.
funny.
I think that's why it's really big. We were talking about this actually before we started today. To be flexible. That's actually why we changed from originally we were like League of Legends club, but I changed it to eSports because I think. I have no freshmen, and all of my kids are seniors at this point. So when those league kids graduate, there might be some kids left over. There might not. But I have I have enough to field 3 Overwatch teams of freshmen at this point. So the next 4 years might be Overwatch dominated, or might get a wave of kids who want to play, Heroes of the Storm, or, the interest level for Fortnite at my school is a little overwhelming. So, it's just kind of like being flexible to be like, what do the kids want the group to be? How can you cater best to the wants and needs of kids, which
Definitely.
With the understanding of like what Todd said, for the focus of the IHSEA, we don't do any mature rated games like R6 or CS or COD or anything like that, which, there's a huge player base, but like selling that to a school is like impossible.
Yeah,
so,
especially in this day and age, and with every other week there being something new, it's kind of it's kind of rough just watching the news and seeing some of the stuff, especially with that tournament that happened it was a month or 2 ago, and just then like, oh, now gaming's bad again. It's like we were just like coming out of this, and then tragedy hits.
Yeah, I think that was a tough one, but I think what Ed said about being flexible is really important. Like even us at Naperville North, we have enough kids to field a Rocket League team. So will we do it? I don't know if we've got the interest. So we're gonna see what we're available, or what's available in the area.
Yeah, that definitely is being flexible, because my group has changed from being 100 league players to being maybe 20. And then being a whole lot of everything else that kids want to be involved in, because our general gaming club is kind of dissolved at the school because teacher was not into it as much. So we definitely have tried to be more flexible and encourage everyone, because we want to have more people involved than less. I think that's the whole idea, is to get more people involved in after school activities, and there's so many different grants out there and everything to be involved in it to help out your school. My school just got a giant grant, and they're putting a portion of it to esports and in gaming in general, and building us a whole lab, including consoles and TVs and controllers and computers and everything. So I'm super excited for that to get developed, because it's one thing to have some computers, nothing to have a whole setup for it. We're looking to have it open like 4 or 5 or even 6 days a week, some weeks, just to have the kids have a place to go to after school that they want to be at.
That's great.
Nelly had a question in the chat. What's the best way to start with a mix of players, different ranks from bronze to platinum, and some unranked and casual and beginners? Do you guys have any answers for that? Do you want me to start?
You can go ahead if you want.
Yeah, so it's really tough, especially if you're trying to be competitive when you have that many different ranks. In platinum to bronze is a very big deal. But the whole idea is to make sure you foster the learning environment there. And that making sure that the platinum players aren't just bashing the bronze players or being overly critical of them, but actually showing them how to play the correct way, or showing them how to play the most ideal way. so that they can actually progress and get better. Most of my players, when they start, usually start in like bronze or silver, and then by the end they end up placing gold, platinum. I haven't gotten someone go from bronze to diamond yet, but that would be miraculous if one of my students does that. But showing them how to play as a team in general, not just critiquing their own solo play, is definitely a way to go around that. And then trying to make mentors out of those better players and showing them how they can help and coach some of the other ones. And that's not for everyone, but that's kind of how I take it. Is I try to have them help coach or walk through what they're doing and what's going through their head when they're playing. Platinum players might not have it all down because a lot of times platinum can just kind of be natural consistencies, but high diamond play, they definitely make decisions that are well thought out and have done extensive like mind work to trying to figure out what the strategy is behind it and going around the actions that they do. Why are they doing exactly what they're doing? And they might not know how to vocalize that, but that also can be a skill that we can help show them how to vocalize those things.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's a great way to put that.
I think the biggest thing too is to advocate to kids that like rank means something in solo queue, like in your competitive, kind of like what Todd was saying. Like a lot of times you could get to high plat, low diamond just from like raw mechanical skill, but it doesn't necessarily mean like how you're going to be a teammate. And just kind of advocating like, there are some people who play better as like fives, but just don't have the mechanical skill to kind of like grind their way higher on their own. So don't let rank define the player as a teammate. And that's hard for kids because, again, if all they do is kind of like play with their friends or play on their own, that competitive rank is all they have to kind of like go off of. But, in a team setting, in a program setting, you got to try and like pull them away from that, your rank is what defines you.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it too, is that the ranks is a good place to start just to find mechanical skill level. But many challenger like teams have gotten beaten. Like I've beaten a challenger player before in a tournament, an LAN tournament. They're not all there. If you have a team with 3 or 4 challenger players, yeah, you might be in the hole, but you could always focus around the strategy behind beating that person or coming up with a strategy to beat them. It's highly possible for them to lose at any given moment if your team play is better than their solo play. So I think it's a good thing to focus on that and just to get the experience for the students. I mean, that playing together is one of the most important things. Is playing together and communicating is the most important thing that will make your team successful, and knowing how to do that. And that's a really hard thing to teach, but I think it's really important that we stress to them is how to communicate and what to communicate, rather than saying memes and laughing and playing jokes and whatnot while they're playing competitively. That's all fun and dandy, but you need to make sure that you're focusing on the game as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of you guys have anything else to add?
I think you put it perfectly.
Okay.
Anything else, Ed?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think it's hard, but to kind of take kids who have never, if they've never had kind of like a competitive program or like been in, like I said, in sports or anything like really organized like that, I think that's the biggest struggle. But they pick it up, and the more that they trust their teammates and trust the process that you set up at your school, I think the more successful you'll be. And sometimes it's important to get the kids to kind of measure success differently. It's not necessarily just wins and losses. Have them set goals. Like, what do you guys want to be able to accomplish? Because those goals that you set as a team aren't defined, again, by rank. It's defined about, how much people buy in to the team mentality. So
yeah, I definitely think setting some goals and coming up with I think practice routines is definitely another thing that you can work on, is focusing on one specific thing on practice. Like if you're going to practice a 1-3-1 comp, know how to run it or know how to, push lanes and practice those little things in the games, and we'll get everyone better. And I think finding a student or finding someone that can teach the strategy before you go into the game, I think is kind of important for raising the level of those lower level players, because they might see it, they might watch the pros, but they don't know how to execute that play. So I think having someone that can talk strategy, whether it's you or another student, might help. Basically, like doing lessons every week for practice on something different, so that they kind of can realize something new about the game and unlock that potential.
Definitely agree.
Yep.
All right.
Many thanks, gentlemen. Of course, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think that we'll start to wrap up here in a few minutes. If you have any other questions, feel free to shout them out in chat before we go. We have a couple other announcements, a couple other questions and things like that for you guys, and then we'll head off, and we'll be probably back in about 2 weeks. But Andy, what's next?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the IHSEA League of Legends season coming up. I don't know if we already talked about the dates. I'm not going to talk about that. But what I will talk about is if you guys go back to the VODs, not now, don't touch that browser, but afterwards, if you guys go back and look at the VODs, I kind of headed this project for IHSEA to kind of make our streams look a little nicer. I believe we did a little bit of work on the finals as well. We made a bracket and we made some transitions and all that I really I used from my personal stream, but I really liked the way it looked, and I liked the feel of the way the games were casted, and the way the games ended up looking. So I started working on something similar, but IHSEA themed. So I'm working on some production stingers and some loading screens and some what do they call it? Like transition time. So for instance, we start the stream starting. It'll probably list a bracket and who's playing for that night or for that stream. Obviously, I don't know if we're going to be able to stream every game every week. That's kind of unrealistic, seeing as we're probably going to have a whole lot of schools. But if one of the streams happen to come online and we're streaming a certain game or a certain match, then we'll match the resources that we have with that stream. So let's say it's Oswego High School versus Taft. We'd have the Taft logo and the Oswego logo. And what I did with our players at Matia is I had them do like a small kind of photo shoot. And it was, for us, we were lucky enough to have like a green screen, or we had like a green wall that we used at Matia. And we put those into transitions for the IHSEA game. So while, yes, they were my kids, so I was showcasing them, and we also had one of our principal that kind of came in through rotation that everyone kind of laughed at. I want to kind of start doing that, as now I'm heading, officially heading, the broadcast stuff for IHSEA. I would like to start doing that for all the tournaments, or as many of the games that we can cast as possible. That being said, I am going to need stuff from you guys. So in order to improve production quality for the IHSEA streams coming up this year, we need a few things. So logos would be really helpful. If I'll be sending out an email, hopefully, or we'll be sending out an email through IHSEA after we get everything organized and turned out. But this is kind of thinking far ahead, so just bear with me while I brainstorm with you guys that are present. So production quality, I'll be asking for logos for your school, whether that be your official eSports logo, or if you guys are just going to use your school logo. Either way, it's fine, but I kind of need to know what logo you guys prefer. When I did it for the IHSEA last year, we were pulling it from either Twitter or from Google, and obviously it's your logo, so we had permission because you guys were participating in the tournament. But I would prefer if you guys sent us the best quality image possible of your school's logo. If you need to ask like administration or athletics for that, that'd be really helpful. A team photo would be kind of nice too. If you guys do that anyway, just for records, it'd be a kind of nice thing to just put up during loading screens while music is playing. in between games, if it's a best of 3 or best of 5 or best of 2, what we did last year. Um, just a team photo to put up. Or alternatively, if you guys have the means, and obviously if all of your administration and your kids and the parents are okay with this, if you guys can do something similar that we did at Mattia, where we did like, you know, individual player photos behind a solid wall. It doesn't necessarily have to be a green screen because we can cut it out as long as it's a solid wall in the background with decent lighting. I to me, I think you could even take a portrait photo with your iPhone and it would look great. Anything is better than nothing. But if you guys get or want to do like portrait photos, similar to if you guys are keeping up with the LCS or Worlds, they do like a player showcase during loading screens and they'll show stats and everything. I've already have a layout for the way I want to show it. I just need stuff to fill it with. So if that makes any sense. So individual player photos, they can be either serious or silly. Like some people do karate poses, or they do like thumbs up or weird faces, or they want to look super serious and scary. Like I'm a diamond player. And
Yeah, it's funny watching some of the ones for the LCS Worlds and seeing
yeah,
their poses. It's like, what is he even doing there?
and no, and it's really funny, and it really adds to the production because
Yeah.
then you can go and we can show people that we're really serious about esports, and I would love to make that happen. I've been working really hard in Adobe After Effects, very hard, kind of learning the ropes and working with some of my other friends too. So that's my passion project for the IHSEA. I don't know if we're going to be able to integrate it, but this is just something for you guys to think about right now. Obviously, I don't need it next week. This is when we start sending out information regarding specific tournaments. But just to kind of plant that seed right now in our second podcast. Um, so there like three main things I just spoke about: logos, it's a full team photo, and individual photo ops. Feel free to include your coaches, or you could even include your principal or your administration or whoever. We did that, and people got a kick out of it, especially the students that were watching that weren't necessarily a part of the club but knew what esports was. They were watching on Twitch, and they could see, oh, there's Principal Echoes on, and they had a good time.
Well, I think it's also another good way to put faces on names. Like you see their in-game name when you play against them, but what do they actually look like? And kind of, also plugs it, just like you said, make it more professional. I think that's a really good idea.
I think it's a step in the right direction, especially because, right now what is more realistic for high schools is online tournaments. Obviously, we won't have player cams like they do in the LCS, but this kind of, a step in the right direction for that. And then, like I mentioned before, just now, there's a lot of new production stuff coming up. The stream is going to look completely different. Specifically, there are new stingers, which are like transitions. Excuse me. That's what I've been working on too. Hopefully, I can refine the edges before the stream comes up. But I've been working on it. That being said, the reason why I'm going on a big tangent about it is because we need graphic design interns. We need somebody that is willing and students or whoever that would like to support local esports in Illinois. A great way to get your name out there. I mean, we get contacted all the time from colleges and from, just regarding information about our kids. But, in order to market yourself as a graphic designer or as a caster or as an analyst, or that's something you want to do, or something that your kids want to pursue, this is a great opportunity to get your foot in the door and start building your portfolio. So that being said, graphic design interns, I would love to have them. And I'm really excited to hear from everybody.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows is that they are actually giving scholarships to graphic designers for their esports programs just in general. They're starting to give scholarships to all those supplemental people that help run the club because they realize that it's better to have someone get experience and give them a scholarship rather than to actually pay someone on staff to do it. It works out better for their students because they're more invested in it then. So I believe we may have a lead on one graphic designer, but definitely the more the merrier. We have several projects that we would love to do for all of our Twitch streams and all of our social media and just everything in general. We're always looking for people to do just about anything for us. So if you're interested in esports and want to get involved in some way, definitely reach out to us and fill out the form. I'll also post it in the Discord if you missed it here, with all the links that we had for Oswego Invitational, as well as for like I said, the interest form and the intern form as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was everything.
Yep.
And then last but not least, we're looking for your feedback. So if you want to see us, or if you want a full-fledged out topic for us to talk about, feel free to let us know. I'm definitely willing to have some college coaches on here, some recruiters who might want to get on and voice their opinion, as well as, on what it's like to be a college esports athlete. Possibly get some administrators on here as well and tell us why they back esports. But we're looking for ideas from anyone. If you guys have anything you want to see or hear from us, or if anyone wants to be on, we're willing to have even students on if they have something important they want to say and talk about. We can do a topic around that and student leadership and everything. So if you guys have any ideas, feel free to email us, IHSEA _org@gmail, I believe it is. I'm forgetting my email address. No, IHSEA.org@gmail.com. Sorry. It's been a while since I actually said it out loud. So IHSEA.org@gmail.com. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's about does it. Thank you, Ed, for stopping by and hanging out with us and giving your input. I think it helps, and looking forward to Oswego Invitational. I think it's going to be another great tournament. It has been for... Is this the third year now?
I think this is our third year,
Yeah. So I thought third year. Yeah, because that's right. Yeah, I think it's third because last year was the big morning one. Before that, it was not the morning one. I remember. My kids were not happy because you had them playing at, was it 7 or 8 in the morning?
No, it was 8 o'clock. You know what's so funny about that? And
6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. Oh, my goodness.
I coached speech my first couple of years teaching, and that we had to be at the school 5:30. So I'm like, 8, that's fine. Got all these, they stayed up late. It looks like you got to go to bed. So we're starting at 9. Kids can sleep in a little bit later.
A little bit. I say you just start at 3 in the morning because they're all going to be awake then.
Yeah, that's
probably, you know what? If it wasn't so hard for me to get the schools to actually administration to watch these games, I'd just do it then.
Yeah.
They can watch VOD reviews.
Right.
Look at what our kids did at 3 o'clock in the morning.
They can wake up. Here's your morning coffee. Here's what we did today.
Or they could tune into the IHSEA stream where, no, I'm just kidding. But it's a selfless plug.
I don't think it's a selfless plug when it's your stream.
Right.
It's not my stream. It's our stream, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but thanks again for being on. Andy, thanks again for being on the podcast again. We'll talk after the podcast and find out, but we should be back in about 2 weeks. I think that's the idea. Especially there'll be a little bit of break or weird spot around Thanksgiving. I don't know how the schedule will work out, but
I will be here online on Thanksgiving. Taff, you better be here. Cann, you're more than welcome to be here. So.
I'm hoping to be playing games that weekend. That's the whole idea.
Oh, there you go.
No school and no kids. That's my vacation too.
There you go.
So, if that's it, guys, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for checking us out and staying with us this long. We hope to see you. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in the Discord. It's the best way to reach us. You can email us, but if you need something instantaneous, feel free to put in the Discord. Go ahead and @ me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Wi-Fi and cellular at my school is jank, so I will get back to you as soon as I can because Discord's blocked at school. But let me know, and any of us will get back to you, any of the admins, as soon as we can. If you have any other questions, until then, see you guys in 2 weeks.
Signing off. Goodbye.
See ya.